All right. You guys are handing out a piece of paper for you, and I want everybody to have one before we go in any further. And it's just a handout of what I'm going to be going over. And I have a goal today. It's going to look a little different, I hope, than normal church. Because normal church don't work anymore. Normal church doesn't work anymore. Really, it never did. And one of the things that was said several weeks ago in a park was, I don't always have to preach. Sometimes you got stuff to say. Because see, normal church, we come, you get a praise team, they lead us in worship. Sometimes we participate, sometimes we don't. Just truth. I'm not rebuking you. It's just the truth. Some people like the show. Some people like the entertainment of it. Others come and worship God with them. It's just church. And it can be all different people. And on any given day, it could be any one of us. Some days I'm way more tuned into worship than others, depending on where I'm at. So I'm not condemning. Don't hear that. We go through the motions. You go through announcements. You go through offerings. You do all these things. And then a pastor preaches and we pray and we go home. And rarely, unless there's something drastic that happens, does anything change. That's normal church. I don't want normal church. I want you to be impacted as a result of having been here. I want you to be moved into action to do more for God tomorrow than you did yesterday. Does that make sense? Otherwise, I'm wasting my breath and my time. I want to help you. But guess what? I need you to help me sometimes. Because the answers don't all flow from the pulpit out. The answers flow throughout the church. Bill and I were just talking, Crazy Bill, the guy in the drums. You know Bill. And we're just talking about this. That life change happens through fellowship and conversation, not preaching. Preaching is inspiring. Preaching can be moving. Preaching can be a lot of things. But preaching don't change you unless you apply it. So, you've seen this before, but it's called the paraphrase of 1 Corinthians 13. If I talk a lot about God and the Bible and the church, but I fail to ask you about your needs and then help you, I like that addition. Here's what we do at church many times. KP, who is my friend, could say to me, Randy, I got this student that's really struggling. Her name is XYZ. When you think about her, pray for her. Cool. I can do that. KP could come to me and say, hey, that girl we've been praying for, I just found out she has some needs. She needs some clothes. Her family they're struggling. She can't pay for new shoes to play basketball. Great, I'll pray for her. Does KP need prayer at that point? No. Does the girl need prayer? No. She needs some basketball shoes and some clothes. That's what that's saying. And how often do we hear a need? I can't stop on every one of these. We'll never get through this. If I talk a lot about God and the Bible and the church, but I fail to ask about your needs and then help you, I'm simply making a lot of empty religious noise. I know a lot of noisy religious people. If I graduate from theological seminary and know all the answers, which I did not, for the record. Y'all ask me some theological questions. Sometimes I'm like, I didn't go to seminary, right? I mean, it's pretty obvious. I went to Bible college, and I have a 2-year Associate of Arts degree in youth ministry, and you're all mostly older than that. Explains a lot, don't it? Enough of that. And I know all the answers to questions you'll never even think of asking. And if I have all the degrees to prove it, and I say I believe in God with all my heart and soul and strength, and claim to have incredible answers to my prayers to show it, but I fail to take the time to find out where you're at and what makes you laugh and why you cry, I'm nothing. If I sell an extra car and some of my books to raise money for some poor, starving kids somewhere, and if I give my life for God's service and burn out after pouring everything I have into the work, but do it all without ever once thinking about the people, the real hurting people, the moms and dads and sons and daughters and orphans and widows and the lonely and the hurting. If I pour my life into the kingdom but forget to make it relevant to those here on earth, my energy is wasted, and so is my life. Here's what love is. Genuine love, God's kind of love. It's patient. It can wait. It helps others, even if they never find out who did it. Excuse me. Love doesn't look for greener pastures or dream of how things could be better. If I just got rid of all my current commitments, love doesn't boast. It doesn't try to build itself up to be something it isn't. Love doesn't act in a loose, immoral way. It doesn't seek to take, but it willingly gives. Love doesn't lose its cool. It doesn't turn on and off. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. Some people make it easier to love than others. Don't point and don't nudge your neighbor. Tough one. Love doesn't think about how bad the other person is, and certainly doesn't think of how it could get back at someone. Love is grieved deeply, as God is, over the evil in this world, but it rejoices over truth. Listen to this next line. Love comes and sits with you when you're feeling down and finds out what is wrong. It's not enough to see somebody don't look right. They just don't seem like themselves. Love comes and sits down and finds out what's going on. Love them enough to find out what's going on. It emphasizes with you and believes in you. Love knows you'll come through just as God planned. And love sticks right beside you all the way. Love doesn't give up or quit or diminish or go home. Love keeps on keeping on. Even when everything goes wrong and the feelings leave and the other person doesn't seem as special anymore. Love succeeds 1,000% of the time. That, my friend, is what real love is. A lot to think about, isn't it? I hope your copy was like my copy. I realized we printed that one off. I have one on my computer, and then we found that one online. I hope it's the same one. Did it line up? Okay, I thought it did. Just dawned on me. I may have read a little bit different one than you had. The reason I wanted everybody to have one, I need you to take this home. And I want you to start working line by line and looking at yourself and say, how am I doing? Because, folks, we can't be God's hands extended without his love in us, flowing through us and coming out of us. It's got to be real. This fluffing stuff's got to stop. Do we honestly care when our sisters, brothers dies unexpectedly? Of course we do. But why does it take something like that before we notice? Why does it take that? It's got to be something big. There's some people in our church that are struggling with stuff right now. They're walking through the valley. And they're afraid to talk to somebody. What will people think? Wouldn't it be nice if you didn't have to worry about that? That you know they love you with genuine love. They're not going to talk about your stuff. They're not going to tell anybody your business. Wouldn't that be awesome? Isn't that what the church is supposed to be? The safe place. The guarded place. Not to cover things up or hide them, but to safely help somebody that's in need. So this morning, we're going to have a time of reflection. We're going to kill the tape here in just a minute, not yet. It's not about everybody else. Today, we're going to have a little family time. And we're going to talk about some of the areas that we struggle. Because here's what's going to happen is let's say, this is terrible. You. What's your name again? Patrick. I'm sitting there literally going, I'm over 50. Don't look at me like that. It happens all the time now. I did this to Deb the other day. She just didn't catch me. Pat. If Pat says, Randy, sometimes I lose my cool, which I'm saying that because I don't think he probably does. He seems pretty laid back. But it could be. But if Pat says, sometimes I lose my cool and I got to get better. What does that do to everyone in here that's struggling with losing their cool? All of a sudden, a little bit of, I'm not the only one. Because you know what? There's some people in here that deal with losing their cool. That's for driving. This is just everything else. Right? I mean, I'm amped up. When things don't go right, I get excited real quick. That's my daughter when she got a tattoo without permission. Worst day of my life. Worst parenting day of my life. I broke a door. Shame on me. Shame on her. She didn't ask. She almost met Jesus that day. Like face to face right now. But listen, we've got to be more genuine and not just me talking. Sometimes I need you to share some things that are on your heart because it's going to help somebody else. If you struggle with compassion and showing empathy for people that continue to make stupid mistakes, I don't think that makes you abnormal. But those of us that have been those people that made a lot of stupid mistakes, we like mercy. And some of you ain't got any because you got it right the first time and ain't messed up since. See the conflict? But whatever it is, if as we were reading through that, if something stuck out at you and you say, I'm going to work on that. Could we be bold enough to share some of that today? In public, with our friends, not to tell business, not to tell stupid stuff. I'm not talking about, I'm just saying, hey, I struggle showing empathy. I struggle whatever. Sometimes I turn my love on and off. Or maybe it's sharing something, how you felt loved at some time when you may have felt unlovable, but somebody from God's family helped you feel the love of God. I don't know. We're going to try it. But I got nothing else. I'm not preaching anything else. Unless you don't talk. And then I'm going to preach for 3 hours and I'm going to read Leviticus to you. The boring part. Okay? You that are watching, sorry you're missing the discussion. You're welcome to join us. We love you. God bless you. We'll see you next week.